So Hayao Miyazaki has come out of retirement once again to deliver the goods with The Boy and the Heron. This is just another great movie made by him, and I'm so excited to be sitting here in 2023 talking about a film by Hayao Miyazaki in theaters. And what's even more important, at least for me, is that this is the first time I've ever gotten to see one of his films in theaters, and also a Studio Ghibli film in theaters. I've never seen any of theirs in theaters. I know they replay them all the time, every year. It never lines up with my schedule. To see The Boy and the Heron in theaters was truly a blissful experience for me, and a cinematic one at that, because 2D animation, anime, that is one of my biggest cups of tea. And when it comes down to Miyazaki himself and Studio Ghibli, they were a major part of my childhood. Around 2003 to 2004, I just purely remember sitting in my room on my bunk bed with the TV on, Cartoon Network going, and Toonami popping up. And Toonami always had some great anime that really much ventured into my entire life, like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Zatch Bell, the list can go on and on from there. But they started playing movies. And maybe I'm mistaken, maybe my memory is not as great, and you guys can correct me down below, but I'm pretty sure this was on Toonami, and a film called Spirited Away popped up. And I was like, what is this? And I remember watching it and falling utterly in love with that movie. Because of the characters, the world, the magic, and I became obsessed with finding out about this. And I remember I went to school and started talking about Spirited Away, and luckily, one kid actually knew what I was talking about. And we bonded over this, bonded over Toonami, and he started telling me about other films from Hayao Miyazaki, and ever since then, it had become a thing that I always had to see one of his movies. I never got to see him in theaters, but I definitely always watched for them on TV. And I remember eventually I finally saw Howl's Moving Castle, and the list goes on and on from there, such as Kiki's Delivery Service. And Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli became a major part of my life, to where a couple years ago I went back and rewatched every Studio Ghibli movie, every Hayao Miyazaki movie, especially the ones that I'd never seen before, such as Princess Mononoke. And I just, again, utterly felt all over in love with it. Like, whatever is on Miyazaki's brain and his wavelength, that's my cup of tea. Like, it just moves. I love the fantasy settings of so many of these movies, the mysticism, but also I just love the way that these worlds are created. But on the under parallel of all of these worlds, and no matter how mysticism it can get, I love that in the end of the day, all of his movies have this underlying theme. And going back and rewatching them, you can see how much they parallel to our worlds today. And The Boy and the Heron is no exception at that, because this is about a young boy yearning for his mother, ventures into the world shared by the living and the dead. There, the death comes to an end and life finds a new beginning. As we venture into this world, it is something that truly took me back. This is just a great movie. There's small things that I wish would have been done a little bit better. I think the film could have even been a little bit longer, but it's a movie that I'm very excited to dive back into. It's a movie that I know I'm going to be thinking about for the rest of the year and probably into the new year, until I finally do get to venture back into this world and really much take in everything that Miyazaki has, because I think there's so many themes and so many parallels and so many little things that you could study about, and we can take it at surface level, what I was able to experience, but it really felt that the parallels that he makes with, again, the world of the living and the world of the dead is something that we can, again, yearn for in a way that you fantasize about having conversations with loved ones who may have passed, or wishing that you could be into these fantasy worlds where these people could potentially be characters. And that doesn't give any spoilers away, and it's no twists or turns, because there's so many different ways people could interpret this film, but I'm honestly just speaking out of my ass at this point. I'm just excited to talk about The Boy and the Heron. I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here. I talk about movies, TV, and games over here on a daily basis, whether it's in long format in one of these long videos or on a shorts. Yes, I'm on that whole short game as well, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Please share your thoughts down below, and what is your favorite Hayao Miyazaki movie of all time? Leave that down there. So with The Boy and the Heron, every movie review, I like talking about the pros. That's my favorite thing. That's what gets me passionate, excited to talk about movies. And flat out, I want to talk about the voice casting first, because I went and saw the dubbed version, and When I saw Robert Pattinson was going to be in here, I was so excited. I didn't know who he was going to be playing until like a couple weeks ago where it was announced that he was playing the Grey Heron. And my God, he is terrifyingly good. Like, this is actually probably one of my favorite voice performances of the entire year. And I say probably because Across the Spider-Verse had a lot of great voice performances, and so did Elemental, but there's just something special about the Grey Heron and the way that it kind of just develops out and comes about that just was insanely creepy, but also really hilarious. Like, this film is not scared to get really weird, and I'm sure if you've watched Miyazaki films before, you know that instantly. Like, his films can go twist and turn. Like, there's a whole thing with these parakeets that just had me laughing my ass off every time they come on. Like, just seeing these overgrown, big, fat parakeets walking around with, like, knives and kitchen tools that just, their just whole goal is to eat. It's hilarious. And I also thought it was funny, first off, that Dan Stevens voices one of them, and I actually looked it up, that he only did a small voice role in here so he could see a new Miyazaki film early. Shit, I would do the same. Alongside that, while I love Robert Pattinson in here, I thought he was easily my favorite voice performance. I have to shout out Christian Bale, I thought was fantastic. Dave Bautista was great for the small role he was in. Gemma Chan is a big standout. Willem Dafoe, small role, also great. Karen Fukuhara, who I'm a big fan of from The Boys, I thought she was great. Mark Hamill, really, really well done. Florence Pugh, excellent as well. But truly enough, I think Luca Padovan, who plays the main character in here, was phenomenal. And I say this because there is one piece of line delivery between two characters that I don't want to say who he's against, because I think it gives away a plot line. But the voice actress for that, excellent. But Luca's delivery, the reaction, the gasp at one piece of line delivery that's very much towards the end of the film, just hit me in the gut. And while I was already swelling with tears, like I wasn't tearing up yet, that moment, that line just kind of really hit me. And I loved the voice acting in here. I think everyone does a really great job, and I think the dub really turned out great. Alongside that, with Hayao Miyazaki movies, I love venturing into each and every one of these worlds. Every movie of his, the best to just the good, because I don't think he's ever made a bad movie. The world is always one of the most fascinating things to explore. And The Boy and the Heron, for me, it is a very fascinating look at, again, the living and the dead. And the whole entire mysticism and the mythology of how this entire world was created and why it was created and all the different ideas truly found to be awe-inspiring and, again, creative. These are some of the most creative movies and the most creative worlds that we will ever venture into. And when it comes down to cinema and being able to experience a film like this, it's a fantasy realm that I don't think is tapped into all too often in any other sort of genre or even any other creative mind other than Hayao Miyazaki. And this world was something that I could have honestly lived in forever. The animation is just beautiful. I mean, you probably expect that, but there's certain coloring and certain palettes that you could just pause the movie and take a snapshot and put it as your background. One that's just him coming out of an outhouse and looking up at the moon, and then the sequence that comes right after that with these little cute blobs that I don't want to give away what they actually are, but are freaking great. All these little things just add up and build into this world. The Grey Heron, I love that entire analogy and what it means. And I also love, again, the parakeets were like just so freaking funny to me. But this world was just something that I wanted to keep exploring. And on top of that all, the score was probably one of my favorites of the entire year. It really settles into the entire tone. And again, The Boy and the Heron is just, it's another special movie made by Hayao Miyazaki. And it's one that I'm excited to study for the years to come. Honestly, when it comes down to issues with the film, the only major issue I actually have with the film is I think it's too short. I think the ending is a tad bit abrupt, just a tad bit. I liked how it ended, don't get me wrong. But I think the crescendo and everything leading up to that point was so fucking strong. But like I said, I like to explore this world. And I think there's an idea and some obvious twists and turns that you can see coming from a mile away, but there's certain ideas in there that I wish they would have explored a little bit more. Certain characters that I wish we would have spent a little bit more time with in specifically this world. It's the most that I can really say without getting into spoilers, but I just wanted to live more in here. And maybe I'm just being selfish, but I think an easy 10, 15 more minutes could have increased the mythology of this world, but as well as every character and their dynamics. But that's also one of the things, is that the film sets up so much of this so earlier on that is hard for me to realize, like, okay, how would you have gotten here? Because it does take quite a bit to actually get into the entire scenario and what's going on in this. But it's hard for me to be like, oh, I would take this out and move it forward. No, I would just add more to this world. It's just one damn grand adventure, and it's one that, this is the type of film that will again one day play on television, and kids will see it, and this will be their introduction to anime. And that makes me just excited, to say the least, just as how Spirited Away was for me. And that's actually why I think Toonami is like one of the most important things, and why Cartoon Network and certain programs like that are so important for kids to elevate what they are watching more than some of the trash cartoons that are out there nowadays. A whole other discussion for another day. All I can, again, say is that The Boy and the Heron was great. I really love this movie. I thought it was just fantastic. And, again, not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. It didn't need to be. There's certain things that I'm just being selfish on, and it's one of those movies that I can't wait to rewatch again. So with all that said, I'm going to give The Boy and the Heron an A. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, comment down below your guys' thoughts, and, of course, until next time, stay classy.